In the ancient land of India, there once reigned a king known for his unparalleled commitment to truth and virtue, King Harishchandra. He was the son of Trishanku, and his dedication to Dharma made him beloved among his people. His kingdom flourished under his righteous rule, and he was admired for his honesty and integrity. He never deviated from the path of truth, and his subjects revered him as a paragon of virtue. However, despite his virtues, there was one sorrow that troubled King Harishchandra. He had no offspring. His heart yearned for a son to continue his legacy. Desperate, he prayed to Varuna, the god of water, for a child. Pleased by his devotion, Varuna granted the king's wish, but with a condition. Varuna decreed that, in time, the king must offer his son to him as a sacrifice. As the years passed, King Harishchandra's son, Rohitasya, was born. But when the child grew up, Varuna appeared before the king, disguised as a Brahmana, and reminded him of the promise he had made. The king, overwhelmed by the love for his son, began to procrastinate and delay fulfilling the promise. Each time Varuna's reminder came, Harishchandra found a way to defer the sacrifice, his heart unwilling to part with his beloved child. But fate has its own plans. Meanwhile, in a twist of fate, Sage Vishwamitra, the great sage of the time, developed a bitter enmity with Maharishi Vasishtha, the royal guru of the Ikshvaka dynasty. Their animosity was so intense that they both cursed each other to become birds. The curse lasted for many years, until Lord Brahma intervened and reversed the curse, restoring the two sages to their original forms. However, during this period, the seeds of misfortune were sown in Harishchandra's life. Rohitasya, unaware of the full extent of his father's plight, learned of the condition tied to his birth, the promise made to Varuna. Devastated, he fled into the forest, fearing that the king would have to sacrifice him. In his absence, King Harishchandra's health began to deteriorate. Varuna, angered by the king's repeated delays, cursed him with a terrible disease, dropsy, a painful and debilitating condition. The once mighty king was now afflicted with an illness that drained his vitality and strength. As Rohitasya wandered in the forest, attempting to escape his fate, he encountered Indra, the king of the gods, who appeared before him in the form of an old sage. Indra advised Rohitasya to stay away from his father's kingdom, for if he returned, the sacrifice would be inevitable. Instead, Indra suggested that the boy embark on a journey of pilgrimage to cleanse himself of the curse and avert the sacrifice. Guru Vasishtha, seeing the dire situation of his beloved king, devised a plan to save Harishchandra. He arranged for another person to be offered in place of Rohitasya as the sacrifice. Vasishtha prayed to Varuna, pleading with him to release Harishchandra from the curse of dropsy. But, as often happens in the world of gods and men, Vishwamitra, driven by his long-standing animosity toward Vasishtha, took advantage of the king's vulnerability. In a cruel twist of fate, Vishwamitra approached Harishchandra and falsely claimed that he had dreamed that the king had promised to donate his entire kingdom to the sage. The naive Harishchandra, ever devoted to truth, believed Vishwamitra's words and agreed to give away his kingdom. The king, along with his wife Chandramati and son Lohitasya, were sent to Kashi, leaving behind the kingdom they once ruled. But Vishwamitra's cruelty did not end there. The sage tormented the royal family further. Chandramati and Lohitasya were sold as slaves, and Harishchandra, stripped of his dignity and wealth, was forced to work as a bonded laborer at a cremation ground. The suffering of the royal family knew no bounds. In a cruel irony, Harishchandra was forced to tend to the very dead bodies that once belonged to his own people. In the midst of this suffering, tragedy struck again. Harishchandra's son, Lohitasya, was bitten by a snake and died. The grieving mother, Chandramati, was forced to bring her dead son's body to the cremation ground where her husband toiled as a laborer. With no money to afford the proper funeral rites, she had to sell her precious Mongol sutra, the symbol of her marital bond, and tear a part of her sari to pay for the burial expenses. In these dire circumstances, Harishchandra and Chandramati were tested beyond measure. They faced unbearable trials, yet they never wavered from their commitment to truth and righteousness. Their courage and determination in the face of such suffering became a beacon of hope for generations to come. Finally, when Chandramati's grief reached its peak, Lord Vishnu, along with Indra and the Devas, appeared before the royal family. Moved by their perseverance and commitment to truth, the gods restored Harishchandra and his family. Vishnu, the preserver of the universe, granted the royal couple the highest reward, entrance into Vaikuntha, the eternal abode of Lord Vishnu. As for Rohitasya, he was brought back to life and was made the ruler of his father's kingdom. Harishchandra's legacy of truth and Dharma was preserved, and his tale became a symbol of unwavering righteousness and sacrifice. The story of King Harishchandra reminds us of the power of truth and the importance of adhering to one's principles, no matter the cost. His trials serve as a benchmark for all who seek to live a life of integrity, and his example continues to inspire people across generations. Even in the darkest moments, the light of truth shines brightest.